Hi, today is day challenge number 3. How are we doing? So far we have 1. And then we have 2, which is squeeze, 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 squeeze. And today we're going to learn Dr. Joe Dispenza, how he meditates. And it is in his research that he does this squeezing technique that causes the cerebral spinal fluid that's in our system, which is made up of like proteins, salt, and solutions, which are electrically charged. When we do this squeezing exercises, it squeezes the cerebral spinal fluid up the spinal canal into the brain. And as it does that, it opens up the valve into the brain and it pushes pressure up in there, which increases the oxygen. Also causes all kinds of electrons to co-create the sensation of beautiful serotonin and melatonin, which are 2 of our really good feel-good chemicals. People that really study Dr. Joe Dispenza's work and do it very faithfully eventually can get to a place where they're also creating something called oxytocin and vasotensin hormone. And what those 2 things do is they just make us feel loved and so relaxed. So as you can see, this breathing stuff is really super important. And there's so many different kinds. How do you decide which one to do? Well, I feel like the ones for anxiety, the squeezing, 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 and releasing, and then the breathing exercises really kind of help tone us down a couple tones. And then when you start to getting into some of these more breathing techniques that are a little bit slower and more central, now you're training your brain to slow down and be present. And that you're looking around your life and you're thinking, this is a good life, right? I started doing all this breath work after I was so stressed out at the office. I remember a day that I had to make a phone call to another physician to get report on a patient about his medications because the patient had no clue and the discharge paperwork from the hospital was just a mess. So I called the doctor and he just doesn't want to look it up on his computer. He tells me to check with the discharge summary nurse. And I'm like, I would really like for you to look in the computer and tell me the course of what happened to the patient at the hospital. He gets very flustered. He's not sharing that with me. I can talk to the discharge summary person and he transfers me. And of course, she doesn't know the information. And guess what? She transfers me back to him. Now he all of a sudden has a computer in front of me and he's willing to tell me what's going on with the patient. And even with that, he really didn't know. And I got really very little information. I hang up the phone. I'm so like, what in the world? Like, I just want to help people. It shouldn't be this difficult. And then I looked up on the wall where I keep my mantra every day. And one of the things it says is never give up and to just breathe. And it sits up and it's in a great big old poster sitting right in front of my desk. And I thought to myself, I do need to breathe because right now my blood pressure is off the roof. I have a full schedule of people that are waiting to be seen by me. I'm obviously behind. Imagine that. I know if you're a patient watching this going, oh, she's always behind. But that's why, because I'm doing all these little things behind the scenes. And what I realized is that I was holding my breath the whole time I was talking to him. And as I was doing that, I was getting more and more and more anxious about trying to find a solution. So when I looked up and I saw that, I started doing my breath work. And lo and behold, I just started feeling better. And then I got up and I went on to the next patient. And at that point, I had diffused that whole feeling of anxiety. And the reason is because while you're breathing, you're making that serotonin, melatonin connection. You're changing the chemicals in the brain, pushing more oxygen around, and generally reducing the sympathetic system that is going crazy inside of you. So it's really a control switch. So you got the switch and it's up high and you want it to go down. You got to do something to make that happen. And it's breath work. So let's do Dr. Joe's. His is pretty simple. It requires us to hold our breath for a fairly long time. So follow along with me. We'll hold as long as we can. If you can't, then just breathe. I mean, you know, this is not rocket science here. So the first thing you do is you squeeze the perineum. So the perineum is down at our core, and we want to squeeze that like the area of our buttocks and all the muscles that are around in there. You just want to squeeze that and hold that super, super tight. And then as you do that, you want to pull your stomach muscle in. So now we're going to breathe the stomach muscle in and pull it in. So you go, and as you're doing that, you're pulling this the stomach muscle in, and you're straightening your spine and you're holding your breath. So let's try it together. And this is really hard. The first couple times I did it, he was like going on and on, hold it, hold it, hold it. I'm like, oh my God, I can't breathe. So just do your best. So again, you're gonna squeeze all your buttocks muscles, you squeeze them together and you're gonna hold it. And then as you take a breath in, you're gonna pull your stomach as high up towards your rib cage as you can. So, and now you're just gonna hold it. And let's see how long we can do it. You do it with me and we'll see who wins. Hold it. You got this. You got this. Keep holding. Keep holding. Whew. Now, you should be able to feel a sensation going up in your head. And what that is that's the breath work. That's exactly what you're trying to accomplish, is getting all the valves going up the spine, up into the brain, lighting the brain up and being beautiful. Again, obviously, we shouldn't be doing these weird things if you're pregnant, have severe heart disease or severe lung disease. But for the average person, you should be trying to do some of these things. The other thing is, if you didn't hold it as long as I did, you have to know that your respiratory reserve is not that good. And that means you're probably not exercising and doing some of the things that make you really, your heart strong and lungs strong. So let's try it again, okay? Let me just, like, we can do this, okay? So squeeze down at the bottom, squeeze, 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 squeeze. Squeeze in your gut as you breathe in. Really pull it all the way up, shoulders back, and hold it. You got this, like, you can do it. Hold as long as you can. I feel like it's coming out my eyeballs. Keep holding it. I got my hand, I'm like, whoo! I think I'm ready to pass out now. But don't worry. And in his meditations, he may do 5 to 10 of those in a row. Maybe you just start with 1 or 2 just to see how you feel. And maybe you do 1 or 2 a day, 5 times. So we're kind of on that 5 pattern thing. Yesterday, I was doing squeeze, 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 squeeze 5 times a day, just 1 time each. I mean, make it pretty simple. The reminder is when you go to the bathroom, that's your time to do your breath work. That's our rest time. So please give these things a try. I know it's difficult. I mean, I could just imagine you at home going, I can't hold my breath that long, but it's okay. It's not necessary for any perfection here. All we're trying to do is reduce anger, pain, fear, and suffering. All of those things are in us. They're not in anybody else. What we see in others is what comes from inside of us. So if you're feeling anxious or you're feeling any symptoms at all, breathwork is going to help you. It's going to settle down that sympathetic to the parasympathetic. It's going to increase the blood flow to your brain, which is going to increase the oxygen, which is going to make all these electrons go, hey, and you're going to feel better. I promise. But you got to do the work. So the challenge for today is to do 1 of those breaths, squeezing, pulling in the gut, straighten your shoulders, holding it 5 times a day. So see how you do. And hey, why don't you put down in the section there if you liked it or not? If you didn't like it, say it. But if you did, say it too, you know? So if you're ever feeling like you need a health coach, that's my job. So you can ring me up or catch me on message. All right. Have a great day. Let's do this thing. And then teach one to somebody else, or maybe have somebody do it with you, because this is a hard one and you got this.